Step into the Oracle Parlor, a podcast where those interested in witchcraft, psychic abilities, ghosts, and all things paranormal come to sip and spill the magical tea. This parlor is a space to grow by maintaining our curiosity over fear when it comes to the spooky and the paranormal. I'm your host, Jenny, otherwise known as Fantasma Witch. I'm a previous visual storytelling artist from animation, now full-time psychic witch, who is getting her MA in psychology to become a licensed therapist. Every other episode, I will share my paranormal experiences, different witchy experiences on a variety of topics, while other episodes, I will be talking with witchy guests of all backgrounds, from writers to artists to well-known social media witches, so we can learn about their practices and how they grew into their personal power. So get cozy and grab your tea. It's time to get mystical. Hello and welcome back, my mystical besties, to the Oracle Parlor podcast. And a first for the Oracle today, we have two guests in the parlor. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, whoever wants to go first.
I'm Paulina.
And I'm Jez. Yeah, Paulina, tell us about your background.
Oh, I forgot about that. I'm used to doing our podcast. I'm Paulina. I'm just this is Romanistan Podcast. No. Okay. So I'm a Romani gypsy. We call ourselves Roma just because gypsy is a slur. And I grew up in the LA area, California. I had an arranged marriage, which I am no longer a part of. And I'm also the co-author of Secrets of Romani Fortune Telling, and the co-host of Romanistan Podcast with Jezmina. And I also have a holistic healing business. So I'm a holistic practitioner, and the name of my business is Romani Holistic. And I also do readings there. So yeah.
Amazing.
I'm Jezmina von Thiele. I am a tarot palm and tea leaf reader in my Romani family tradition. I'm mixed, I'm assimilated. My family's mostly Sinti, and I grew up fairly assimilated, is what I mean. And I'm co-author of Secrets of Romani Fortune Telling with Paulina and co-host of Romanistan Podcast. And I'm also a creative writer and artist and performer, and I do readings online and in person in New Hampshire.
Beautiful. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. I'm so excited for you to share a little bit about your book, a little bit about your experiences as being Roma. And, I would actually love for you both to share a little bit about your beginnings on how you started your practice, because I know you both kind of like grew up with this. So it's not like most other witches that I talk to that's like, oh, well, I got my first tarot deck when I was like 15. So whoever wants to share a little bit about that, I'd love to know.
Yeah, you want to go first, Paulina?
Okay. Um, so we did have a pretty similar upbringing when it comes to basically being introduced to fortune telling at such an early age.
Mm.
So my parents were, my mom, most of the like females in the family were fortune tellers professionally, and this goes back literally thousands of years. It's a practice that they never let go of. So there's that. And I kind of got into it because I had to. So when
Mm.
I was young, we weren't really allowed to do anything else. We're not really allowed to work anywhere else. We're not allowed to have regular jobs. Like it was very enforced, and that's just the truth and that's the reality. I was even
Mm.
taken out of school at an early age in order to basically prepare for marriage and continue the fortune telling kind of practice and business within whatever family I was getting married into. So really young, I would just sit in the room and kind of watch my mom, my aunts kind of do fortune telling. I would also practice, like, here's some cards, here's this, here's that, here's the palm, and like, what do you see? And like, as a kid, you just kind of use your imagination, and then they're like, well, what do you feel, or what do you see, or stuff like that. And there's also some, I mean, negative parts of the practice because this is a survival trade. So I am not going to lie and pretend that it doesn't exist or that it's not there, but I definitely experienced some of that when I was growing up, where some people were like, well, if you see this and then this person has a spell on them and then they need this, and sometimes that does happen, and sometimes it doesn't. But the reality is that the way that I practice right now is very wholesome and also very, I don't know, I guess it's different, but it's also kind of the same. I think we've kind of, even just the work with Jez and I and writing the book and everything, I feel like we really perfected our practice.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, as I mentioned, I grew up assimilated. So, just my maternal grandmother is Romani. And so when I was a kid, she was explaining our culture to me when I was really little. And she started teaching me fortune telling around the age of 4 and 5. And in our family, if you exhibited certain like ability as a little kid, like if you were a little spooky psychic baby, like you would get trained up. And so I think it might have been different, if she grew up in Nazi Germany, World War II, genocide, all these things really shattered and scattered our family.
Yeah.
It would have been different. Maybe if I'd grown up in community, maybe more people in my family would have been taught, but my grandmother really focused on me. And it was hard for her as an immigrant coming over. She was afraid to share too much with her children in case it made their lives harder. But I think by the time I was born, she was afraid that our heritage and our practices would die out. And even though she had obviously raised my family in a Romani tradition, they weren't aware of it until they were adults, like what their heritage was. And so, yeah, like Paulina, I was learning when I was a kid and it was in the house all the time. And it was, but I had the choice of doing it or not doing it. I really loved it. And I think having that choice really matters. You love something more if you get to choose it, if you're going to love it at all. And so it's something that I had always done and always thought of as it was like a good job if I ever needed it, basically. And it was both introduced to me as a spiritual trade, like an ancestral work. She was telling me about the importance of a survival trade, but also a business. And actually, do you want us to explain a little bit like who Roma are? I meant to do that at the beginning.
It's as if you're psychic and you knew what I was going to ask next. I was going to ask you both. Yes, what is it to be Roma? What does that mean? What does it mean to you? And what would you like people to know about that?
I always love giving the history spiel, so I'll do the historical part, and then Paulina and I can talk about like what it means to us, because it can definitely sound different to different folks. But so historically, Roma refers to the diasporic ethnic group originally from India, also known as Gypsies. A lot of people use Roma as a noun, Romani as the adjective. Some people don't use it that way. Some people feel like Romani is more inclusive. Our language is not standardized, but just to help you navigate that. So gypsy, especially in the US, is a contentious and difficult word. Gypped to mean cheated like a gypsy. It's an insult that projects Romani attributes, whether you're calling someone who's Roma a gypsy or not, or someone who's not Romani. It's one of those words that shouldn't be appropriated or misused.
Yes.
At the same time, Roma are allowed to call ourselves whatever we want. And plenty of Roma do prefer to identify as gypsy, and some super don't. And some do amongst ourselves only. And so, because of centuries of persecution after Roma left India around the 10th century, in waves, we have developed these survival traits like metalworking, horse trading, performing, etc. And Roma arrived in Europe around the 1350s and have been met with multiple genocides, 500 years of slavery in present-day Romania, which, by the way, Romani is not the same as Romanian. You can be both, but they're different ethnic groups. And Yeah, and Roma live all over the world today, and our culture has Indian roots, but we've also become our own thing over 1,000 years. And yeah, so that's the historical part. Paulina, do you want to pick up where, like, what does it mean for you?
Yeah, so I feel like Roma are from so many different parts of the world, and it's interesting that even though our language isn't standardized, like a part of our language is similar, but also picked up from a lot of words from different places, as well as
Mm.
our food, as well as our spiritual practices, even religions from many different countries kind of like crossover and practices crossover within our community. Same thing with our style. Bohemian style was actually inspired slash stolen by Romani people
Yeah.
who were traveling basically from the east to the west. And so there's that, but also our I just want to say our culture is really rich and beautiful. And there's also a lot of traditions that should probably be changed. I know my community, the Machwaya community in California, definitely has some old practices that need to yeah, like basically just change or be like terminated. But at the same time, I feel like there's a level of Roma community and the rest of the world um that basically there's a level that we can continue to kind of integrate and cherish education and art and just kind of a lot of other things and freedom as well. And so yeah, I guess it means everything to us. Our podcast, Romanistan, is we kind of joke that it's our love letter to our culture. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and just to build off of what Paulina was saying, Paulina's done a lot of really amazing work advocating around arranged marriage, which is a practice that has come out of slavery in an effort to protect children from being abused by their slave masters, which, didn't always work, and it usually didn't, but it was something. We don't need to do that anymore. That's not where we are. And Paulina has spoken about this on Foretold, the LA Times series podcast, and Cults to Consciousness. So if you want to learn more about that, it's a practice that not all Roma practice, but it is still a thing. And yeah, we both feel really strongly about everyone in Romani community having equal rights and choices to education and the way they want to live their lives.
And
Um,
thank you for saying that, Jen. I can't always put it into words because it's so like at the forefront of my
Mhm.
yeah,
life still.
you
Yeah.
lived through it. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And we'll include those links for anyone who's listening and wants to check that out. Please do. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, they're really wonderful resources. And yeah, and I so relate to what Pauline is saying too about like being
Mhm.
Romani is like it's so different depending on where you grew up and how you grew up and where your folks came and where they settled and all these different things. And at the same time, we're like very much unified by a shared
Yeah,
history
we're like
and culture and
same.
practice. And yeah, I've definitely had a lot of mixed feelings about even identifying as Romani because I didn't grow up in community. And then
Mm.
at the same time, I've, shared with other people who did, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of our childhoods that were quite similar, actually. So it's like, it's one of those things that I think if people were like, oh, you're not really Romani enough to be Roma, I'd be like, okay, fair enough, but it's still, I love my grandma and I love my culture and tradition, and I feel like it's a part of me.
Not fair
Yes.
enough. You are.
You literally wrote the book on it with someone who grew up with it who's saying, no, stop. But I totally understand that feeling as someone who is Latina, who didn't grow up steeped in the culture, but my abuelita, she, was teaching me words. We would eat traditional meals. And so I totally understand how that feels to be like, it's hard for me to say I am this
Hmm.
when you weren't like fully steeped in the roots of it. So that makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to kind of go back to both of you had mentioned that, fortune telling was this tool of survival. And I would love for you to share what that means to you in modern times for both of you personally, because, you were talking a little bit about the history and that this is how Romani people really were able to keep living. And so, your thoughts on that would be fantastic.
Mm. Yeah, go ahead, Paulina.
I think it's better if people can kind of picture it. So imagine Roma like coming out of India into the rest of the world because of war and slavery and just all these other horrible things. And so we're darker skinned people wearing a lot of different colors, praising a lot of different gods, and just kind of exploring all of these really European areas. We're not really going to be accepted in schools or jobs or, barely on the street or this or that. And so Roma were really, I would say, I mean, I don't know, I guess immersed in their
Yeah.
spiritual culture. So fortune telling is one of them, as well as things like things that you can also do, entertaining things. And so like I don't know why it's so hard for me to singing, dancing, think of things that people are doing on the streets, Roma, things like that, art. And as well as horse trading was one of them, metalworking. My family was more, some of my ancestors more did metal working, metal scrapping, things like that, which are still practiced today. And so a lot of people that were dealing with horses switched over to cars. So it's buying and selling cars, and those things are still practiced today. But fortune telling was something that you can do on the road, and it was something that you can do kind of anywhere. And
Hmm.
that is why it is a survival practice. And
Yeah.
even now today, and I'd like you to kind of talk a little bit about this too, Jess. Like I took a little break from fortune telling because I was like, this is something I always had to do, and like, maybe I want to try something else. And like I did, and I do other things.
Hmm.
Um, but I still find that fortune telling, it's where it's at for me. Like, and in my life, I feel connected to it. I feel a calling towards it, and it's still, financially a survival practice for sure. And I
Yeah.
teach that to my daughters as well. Like I want them to know how to do it and just yeah. But yeah, tell us, Jess.
Yeah, her daughters are such good fortune tellers. We got to
Oh,
in action during our book tour, and they both like made great money. Everyone loved their readings, and they bought their own tarot decks. It was so cute.
that's so cute.
They're such sweet baby angels. Uh, so yeah, everything Paulina said, yes. I mean, that whole history, perfect. That's exactly it. And someone asked me recently, are there any Romani jobs that are not survival trades? And I was like, I don't think so. Everything has been like, I mean, sure, you can like work any job as a Romani person, but in terms of like our traditional work, it's all with this level of need and
Yeah.
ingenuity and resourcefulness. And it's also survival trades are how Roma have, where we have been accepted, how we became part of different communities in a more peaceful way. But yeah, continued persecution is very real. There's still barriers for Roma, whether your family is traditional or non-traditional, if people know who you are, or, just your own experiences of inherited trauma, like you're going to come with these obstacles.
Yeah.
And I have done a number of different things, mostly like teaching and academia and writing and these kinds of things, but I've had other jobs too. But fortune telling has always been supplementary, especially like who makes enough as a teacher to just like be okay? Nobody.
Yeah.
And at the same time, when I got really, really, really sick, just a few years ago in 2020, I was having trouble reading anything longer than a short text message. I was having trouble like writing anything. I was mostly stuck in my bed for months and months and months. And the only way I could support myself was through talking and fortune telling. And that wasn't affected. And it became a survival trait in a different way for me. And I was thinking about what my grandmother said about like, you can always fall back on this. And it really did save me because I don't have a bunch of savings to live off of or anything. I needed work I could do while I was like mostly debilitated, and it was there for me. It truly was a survival trade in like every sense.
I love that. I love how it's still to this day for both of you, in some way, is that safety net for you to always be like, well, I have this to fall on and I know I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And when we talk about fortune telling, I know a lot of people think that it's strictly just predicting the future, telling the future. I mean, that is literally what fortune telling means. And I
Mhm.
would like to know, what does fortune telling as like a craft, and what does it entail when you're doing these different, because there's tarot, there's all different kinds of tools that you can use. So I'm curious, like, what that means when you're giving this session to somebody.
Mhm.
Want me to pick up on that? Okay.
Yeah.
So, fortune telling is an intimate practice,
Mhm.
and it involves whoever wants to be involved in the practice at the time. So, this can have other things involved, like, obviously people know tarot cards or crystals or candles or palms or other tools, ruins, like sticks, you know what I mean? Everyone can use something different. You can use nothing at all. You can just kind of go off the vibe, but that's kind of what it is. Fortune telling is basically a vibe energy exchange where
Yeah.
yeah, you can talk to people. Sometimes you're just kind of feeling their energy. I
Mhm.
know people always report it, knock on wood, like it's always been good, but people report it feeling healing, like a healing practice for sure.
Yes.
And I think just being able to experience that intimate conversation with someone, I feel is already like there. Whether the customer, the person on the receiving end is even talking or not in the beginning, there's an energy exchange happening and going on. And you
Mhm.
can talk about fortune tellers range from all different things. And even in our weekly reading, we talk about love and money and advice. So it can really range from anything. You can talk about your pets, you can talk about the past, the present, the future, but it's definitely not a perfect science. And
Mhm.
we do like recommend therapy and we recommend all those other things.
Yes.
Yes. And there is still a professional line because we are, you know, basically business owners like to a degree, and even if we weren't, like it's a practice that we don't want to do anything harmful or difficult, and I think there's a level of a code of conduct that some tellers follow and some don't. Maybe talking about death, some people only talk about death, some people
Mhm.
don't. Like so that's kind of how we view it, I would say, to a degree.
Yeah, I so connect with that, and I think that a lot of Romani readers will do some predicting, whereas others might not. I think
Mhm.
that has also been a line that some people draw in the sand for different reasons, where I think I was at Salem Witch Fest last week and I was talking to some hoodoo practitioners, and it reminded me very much of Romani reading style because it's very straightforward. And it's just sort of like, okay, here's what you gotta prepare for and deal with. And it's not, I don't know, as loose or suggestive or metaphorical as maybe some other styles, which is fine. It's like everyone has the thing that they like.
Mhm.
But we're definitely not trying to scare anyone or like predict anything dire. It's more about how would you like to move forward? Like what can you keep
Yes.
in mind about moving forward? And both Paulina and I really like to empower the reader to make their own the querent to make their own choices and not just like rely entirely on what a reader says to them. And I like to think of it as being somewhere in, we're not therapists and we're not priests, but like if you need some sort of spiritual guidance that has like elements of both,
Yeah.
it's sort of
Yeah.
like, it's a good place to land. And also, I think it's worth mentioning too that there's still anti-Romani fortune-telling laws in the US that impact people. There's still a lot of danger around even saying that you're a Romani reader. And so it feels important to Paulina and I to share this publicly to reduce the stigma and also, yeah, show what it's actually really about. And that can be different for different Romani readers. But like for us, we really see it as an art of holding space and using spiritual symbols and information to help the person navigate like a life that they want.
Yes, I 1,000% agree. I'm the type of person that I don't openly give like straightforward predictions because I'm like, well. But I definitely agree with the like I want people to feel empowered. I want them to feel like they're walking away with a clearer mindset, motivation, inspiration, and it sounds like that's very much the same thing, even if there is prediction mixed in with that. And I so appreciate that. That's so wonderful. And you had kind of touched on, we have been talking about this a lot, but, earlier we had mentioned how, like, the G word is definitely not something someone outside of the culture should be using. And unfortunately, in America, that is just completely unknown to a lot of people. And unfortunately, I find myself correcting people all the time in
Thank you for
this
that.
work. Yeah, I'm just like, why are we still doing this? And so I would love to know, as we're getting closer to the end here, like I said, you had mentioned kind of like the stigmas and these like ideas that people may not even know or are just ignoring. And so, what is something you really want people to know about your culture, your traditions that's like, hey, we need to change the mindset on this?
Yeah, I feel like actually when Jez was saying that, like, I think it's insane the amount of hate that we get just for like a small sized podcast. Um, it's really interesting. Like we get a lot of hate. Someone commented gypsy like 40 times on
Yeah.
a post that was about educating people not to say that. And they're like, gypsy, gypsy, gypsy. And like a million other people like say a bunch of hate stuff. I even like we even get hate from the community itself because like why are we like living a regular American life and still fortune telling, and why are we doing this? We get a bunch of like horrible things that are said and done to us. Jez got hacked. Like
Yeah.
literally, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wild.
So, yeah, like the stigma exists and it's crazy. And we definitely love to have more people like you because it's a big deal, like educating people. Like we're right in the heat of it, and this is
Yeah.
literally like the fire. Like everybody's going
Yep.
crazy about this stuff. They're renaming moths and they're doing a bunch of things. And like hopefully in like 20, 30 years, like it'll be a little bit more known, especially in
Yes.
regular educational like places. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. What do you think, Jess?
Yeah, all of that, all of that. And you know, Paulina and I were really happy to write this book on fortune telling because it's something that we do, it's something we love, like we genuinely love sharing information about it. And there's so much appropriation within our industry and like racism. And I mean, I encounter it all the time, even when I'm very welcomed and honored at events, which I really appreciate. Like attendees were gonna say some wild stuff to me sometimes, sort of like or other, people around me. So there's still a lot of racism, even
Yeah.
though, proportionate to Europe, it's a lot easier, I think, to live as a Romani person here versus like in some other parts of the world. But at the same time, we're seeing this as our way in of introducing people to what we do. If you love fortune telling, maybe you'll be interested in learning more about its roots and history and how much Roma have contributed to it. And while we didn't invent tarot, we definitely had a lot to do with the way tarot is read. And we're hoping that people get curious about like where these things come from and how to engage with our culture in a respectful way rather than dressing up like Esmeralda and calling yourself Gypsy, whatever. Like, please don't do that. That's not in honor of us. There are other,
Support, yeah, support
yeah.
my businesses.
Yeah, like
Yes.
there's a wonderful fashion company, Loli, by Zita Moldovan. There's Romani Design if you love Romani outfits, like buy from Romani creators. And we've been doing these weekly tarot readings on our podcast also because it's fun, but also to get more people involved because our podcast is interviews with Romani people, which is fascinating, but it's super niche. And so if you're curious about like all the different types of Roma people, and we try to talk to as many interesting people as possible. We have, hour-long deep dives with folks, but we also just want to like invite people in. And the video
Yes.
that Paulina mentioned is with Blair Imani. If anyone has seen Smarter in Seconds, you can check it out and take a look at the comment section. It is fascinating and weird. Some of it's super sweet, some of it's super terrifying. And just like, yeah, I think you don't have to be Romani to speak up for us. You don't have to speak for us, you can definitely, correct people about
Yeah.
the word. You can definitely give them information and share resources. That's all super helpful because it does get exhausting for us to always be
Oh, I
responsible
bet.
for things. It's one thing if it's educational video we made ourselves, but
Yeah.
just like if you're out in the world and you see some nonsense, you don't have to send it to a funny person for them to respond to. You can just say what you need to say.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, every time I teach any kind of like palm reading class, tarot class, tea leaf reading class, whenever I talk about like what do we know about the history, no matter how vague it is, I'm always like, okay, but we need to acknowledge Romani people were the ones who spread this. This is why we have it. This is why it's so popular. This is why like we can't just ignore this. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that it's being talked about more. I do see more people making that attempt to talk about it more, but I like obviously it could be so much better. And this is why I really loved reading your book because it really helped me to educate myself on this. Yes, I got my copy right here, all my little sticky notes. I highly recommend it to anybody who's listening to the podcast. Like, educate yourself. If you like fortune telling, if you like divination, especially if you like tarot, palm reading, tea leaf reading, please read this book. Get yourself that education to understand a little bit more about how we got to this point of popularity with these things. And that brings me to my last question, which is, these are really, really popular forms of divination, but is there any more like niche, smaller things of divination that you personally really like to do that not a lot of people know of?
Yeah.
You just, well,
I I've been getting into trinket reading a little more. It's something that
Yes.
has been popular with not just Roma, there are different variations of it. Like it's definitely it was if anyone saw Sinners, which is a movie I'm now obsessed with,
Yes,
it was
same.
and bone reading was integrated into that. And but Roma definitely we have our version of it. I've been collecting trinkets over time and thinking about the relationship I want to have with them. It's not one of the main things I grew up doing, but it's something that my grandmother taught me about. And
Mm.
we have Ilva Mara Rajewski with her excerpt on like what that's like in our book. And I also really love fire gazing and smoke reading. I do it as a more of a meditative practice. I don't really do it for clients. And um, I feel like, and my friend Ilva had told this to me a while ago when I was feeling a little burnt out. She's like, you need a divination practice. It's just yours. Like, do something that you don't do for money. That's just, and which is both of Paulina and I are like, what do you mean not monetize everything we do? I'm confused.
It's so hard.
It's yeah. But yeah, so that's a favorite lately. And I have a big crystal ball that has like these quartz striations in it that look like clouds. And it reminds me of like cloud gazing with my grandma. And that's how she started teaching me about like symbols and identifying symbols. So I like having that near me and looking at it when I'm doing readings, but I love like cloud reading for fun too.
Oh, I love that.
so this was also new for me. And so I was hearing Jez talk about the smoke readings, and that's kind of something that I also practice now whenever I get some extra time. But I always love when you say that, Jess, because I just thought it was a super cool, great reading, and it just really resonates with me too. And I just kind of like to watch the incense like swirl and see kind of like what feelings come. It's really just meditation in general for me. I live pretty close to the beach, so I've been doing that a lot at the water. I could sit and like look into the water forever, and I feel like I have all the knowledge of the world and I know nothing all at the same time.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really it. I think just being kind of in nature and all these different elements.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so magical. I love looking into the ocean. It does have that like infinite depths energy.
Yes. And I love this idea that, we don't have to always be doing this for someone else. We can keep some practice private just for us to spiritually connect in with. And I really appreciate that idea because I think a lot of people, especially in American Western society, are always like, how can I monetize? And it's like, no, 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 it can
Yeah.
just be fun. It can just be for us. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yes. Well, thank you both for being here on the podcast. Oh my gosh, it was so lovely getting to dive into your culture, your practice, your history, and I'm sure that everybody listening is just itching to get your book and check you out. And where can people find both of you separately together? Whoever wants to share.
You can book online readings with me or events, or if you're like in the New England area, you could probably see me in person by going to jezminavontila.com. I'm also on Instagram and all the other things as Jezmina Von Thiele. And you can get our book anywhere you get books. And like you can order online, but it's also really fun to ask your local bookstore or library to carry it too. It helps us however you get it. So that's great. And you can listen to Romanistan Podcast wherever you get podcasts. It's a free resource. And we have romanistanpodcast.com that has a resources page. So if you want to nerd out about like Romani arts and culture, or if you want to find out more about the human rights issues, we have a list of links that you can check out. And yeah, Paulina, where can they find you?
So if you guys want to book with me, you can go to romaniholistic.com and you can text or call the number that's on there. And you can also find me and my business. So my business on Instagram is at Romani Holistic, and then my personal slash also business Instagram is Paulina V. So it's underscore Paulina underscore V underscore. So yeah.
Wonderful. And for anybody who may be new listening, you can find me as Fantasma Witch. And all of these links to everything that we've been talking about will be in the description below. So definitely, please go check it out. Thank you both so much again for coming and joining me and sharing your experiences. I so appreciate the work that both of you are doing, and I appreciate you coming on to share that with all my listeners. So thank you.
Thank you. It's such a joy to be on here with you, and we just love what you're doing. We really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.
We really do. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me in the parlor for this episode. If you want more psychic magical tips, make sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Fantasma Witch. FANTASMAWITCH. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon, where I have a Discord community. I do Q&As, live classes, workshops, and more. To book a reading or consultation directly with me, you can go to my website, www.phantasmawitch.com. All of these links can be found in the episode description. And please, if you enjoyed this show, make sure you go leave a rating, leave a review, share it with others. It really helps the show to reach new listeners if you take a moment to do that, and it is sincerely appreciated. Shout out to the artist Cat Lines, who helped me to redesign the podcast logo to the beautiful magical teacup you see today. See you, mystical friends, in the parlor next time.